What's up, guys? It's Animal Zero here, bringing you a tier list of Trickshot teams. Let's get into it. So guys, Soar Gaming, of course, formerly known as Soar Sniping, did a tier list of Trickshot teams, OG Trickshot teams. Primarily, they really didn't do much of like newer teams that have just come into the fray, but they did a tier list, and we're going to do one here on Animal because Soar left out a very important team in the Trickshot world. I wonder who they might have forgotten about. So of course, guys, I added here the Animal logo at the bottom because they forgot about WereANML, a team that's been around since 2012. How can you forget about Animal? All of the great players that came out of Animal. Now, sure, some people may look at Animal, in a certain way, like a lot of the members were maybe trolls or, were toxic, things like this. But to say that you're not even going to put them on the tier list, let's set the record straight. Let's do our tier list here. So guys, let's start here at the top with AE. I didn't follow AE in a significant way, but I can acknowledge that they were definitely a team. They had some great players. I would put them personally as they're okay for sure. Now this team, I have absolutely no idea anything about them. I think this might be the only team I don't really know about them. Kind of reminds me of Arrow Indicator, which, by the way, Arrow Indicator is not on here, so that's one team that they're certainly missing from the list. But since I don't know about this team in particular, sorry, man, not sorry. Next is Astral. Astral, guys, I never really thought that they were that great of a team. Their content, I remember seeing a couple of their videos, not really impressed. So we'll put them as trash. Auto. Automatic HQ, guys. I was actually a member of Auto. I was a manager in Auto before I went to Major Militia. I gotta tell you, Auto's aight. They're I think that they created some pretty good content. I'm actually going to put them above AE personally, just because obviously I have a lot more familiarity with Auto. And so I'm going to put them as the top of the ites. Colt Snipers. So Colt, I was actually a member of as well. I would say that I would put them more as a mid-tier team. When I was in the team, they definitely had some really good players when I was there, but even before I was a part of the team, they've had a history over the course of time. They've created consistent content, still do to this day. And so I would certainly put them as a mid-tier team. Next is Dare. So we got Dare Sniping, Dare Sniping, Dare Rising. I would say, guys, and by the way, as I'm putting this tier list together, one of the things I will say is I'm looking at the collective of each of these teams, what they did, not just in the very beginning, but what they've done over the course of time. And most of these teams have had multiple restarts and things like this. So we got to take those things into consideration as well. Dare Sniping, though, absolutely awesome team, man. When it came to Trickshotting, they were a farm team for like Soar. At one point, they were actually rivaling Soar in terms of their members, and Soar overtook them, and a lot of members from Dare ended up going to Soar and then to FaZe. Okay, now we get to Darth. Darth Empire, guys, I loved watching this team, but they did not do Trickshotting. They just did primarily sniping. And so I would put them, if we had a tier list of sniping based teams, I would say that they're certainly near the top, if not at the very top. I would put them, though, as trash at Trickshotting. Next, we've got Era. Era, guys, was always a pretty special team to me. I always looked up to those guys. I went for one of their recruitment challenges. I did not get into the team, but I've always looked up to Era. And yeah, they've had multiple restarts and things of that nature, but over the course of time, they've been very consistent. I'm going to put them as bill cammers with Dare. Of course, guys, we get to FaZe. Dude, I mean, what can you say about FaZe? That is the king of stees without question. They're basically the reason why all these other teams exist. FaZe is certainly at the top. And even when you look at where FaZe is today, they don't do trick shotting. They don't really do sniping either. They've got a couple of players that do trick shot and snipe, but for the most part, they're just doing, vlog based content, IRL based content, streaming, stuff like that. But when you look at them from a consistency perspective, all the years of doing trick shotting and stuff, they are without question at the top. We get to F7 Universe. F7, guys, I was in F7, not very long, but I was in F7 when it restarted, and that was F7 Universe. And I gotta tell you, I mean, even when I was a part of the team, I would put them as a mid-tier team. I would probably put them after Colt, just because F7, they had some good content that they brought out, but they kept on going through restarts and things of that nature. And it really definitely hurt the reputation of the team. And then I think the channel originally got closed out, so on and so forth. So I would put them as a mid-tier team. Genesis Collective, man, these guys, when they first made their first Book of Genesis video, getting hundreds of thousands of views, they were crushing it. They really hit the ground running. There was a lot of people in SOAR that went to Genesis. And then, of course, Genesis kind of over time turned into a team that SOAR would recruit people from. I would have to put Genesis, actually, let's see, at the top of the bill cammers for sure. They absolutely set a standard, and I think they crushed it. Golden Sniping, this is an interesting one for me because, saw some of their content, and there were times where they were actually making really good videos, and then there were other times where it just felt like they weren't creating the best of content when it came to trick shotting specifically. And so GS, I think of, are they more of a mid-tier team, or are they that's kind of, what I'm kind of, where do I put these guys? Let me know in the comment section down below where you guys think GS should be. I'm going to put them as a mid-tier team just because more recently, and I'm actually going to put them, at the top here of the mid-tier teams. I just think that, yes, they created some really good content. They had some videos that did really well, but I think they're kind of a verge team between mid and IT. GWK, this is an interesting one as well because I didn't watch tons of their content, but I've got to put them as man. The content I did see from GWK, and I believe they've had multiple restarts as well. I would say that they created some really cool content for sure. I would definitely put them at the top of B. High Global. So this is really interesting. I was a member of High Global for a period of time. Now, this was probably, I believe, I joined the team when they restarted the first time. So who was it? Was it Perfect? I think it was High Perfect was the owner of High Global. They had done their dual cams with SOAR, and then the team ended shortly after that. And then they came back. When they came back, I joined the team. I got to put High, man. High definitely set some really good standards, created some collabs with SOAR and things of that nature. I've got to put them up here with Bill Cammers for sure. Horizon Union, this is another one where this is tough, actually. Horizon's really tough because they have created some cool content. I remember they got some pretty good content creators in there now, streamers, stuff like this. They definitely, you know what? Some people are probably gonna be mad at me with this one with Horizon, but I've got to put them behind GS. Got to put them as a mid. Like, I know that they've got a pretty big following and stuff, but they, a lot of the content they created, and I love, they rebranded the team and stuff. And ever since then, I mean, sure, they've got some cool things that they're doing over there, but I would just put them as like a mid-tier team. Infrared, if I'm remembering that correctly. These guys really never made a massive splash to me. They definitely had some players. I remember being in lobbies with guys who had Infa in their name, and I would follow some of their content, but I've got to put them at the bottom of mid. They're not quite at trash, but they're kind of like borderline. Okay, so we got Jade Faction. So with Jade, these guys are like a Verge team between IT and Bill Cammers. I would say, and like I said, I really think that you've got to put them over GWK. Jade's got a lot of people though. They got some a lot of, over the years, at least from what I remember, a lot of toxic guys in that team. And maybe some people think the same thing of ANML, like, you know, Animals had toxic members, but Jade had some very toxic people, I remember, without question. Okay, now when we get to just Trickshotting, these guys were, I mean, they were another incredible team in terms of from the Trickshotting world. And if they hadn't ended and they would have continued all this time, I believe that they would have been up there with FaZe for sure. They would have been one of the best teams, you know, on the planet. You know, who knows what they would have done, what kind of content they would have created. Even like the Trickshotters within Just, if they would have started creating more content. I remember Just Edition, I think it was Just Dragon. Man, dude, they had some incredible just trick shots. Their logo was sick. Absolutely love this team. I would say, guys, I've got to put Just right behind Genesis. I think it's got to go behind Genesis. I don't think you can't put them ahead of Genesis. I mean, unless, like, if we were just looking at that time period, then, you know, really Just is a king of steez. But I think that Just was very special in the time that they were around. But what makes them not an S tier team is the fact that they ended multiple times. And the, you know, obviously there were multiple fan teams that were made around Just and things of that nature. It's just really unfortunate to see Just end in the way they did. So that being said, let's move on to the next one. L7 Sniper. I think it's L7 Lucky 7 Gaming or Lucky 7 now. I remember Unlucky. I remember Mario. I remember a lot of the guys within L7. I think you know, if I remember correctly, I had some conversations with some of their guys for sure. But what happened was, I believe Unlucky sold the channel to this kid and his mom, and they really messed up the team. And they haven't uploaded in a long time. And so during the period of time that they were creating like high level content, high level trick shots, all that stuff, I would put L7 as a Bill Cammer team. But now, I mean, they've just been inactive for so long. Where do we put them, chat? Tough, man. This is a tough one. I'm going to put them as a Bill Cammer behind High Global. And it's a very tough thing for me because you could easily like switch L7 and Jade just because L7 is inactive. I'm just have such fond memories of what, you know, back in the day of L7 and what they did. They were up there with High. They were up there with Era, Dare. They were up there with the best of the, you know, Trickshot teams for sure. Ending was difficult for sure. Yeah, it's tough. And then we have Link. Link, you know, they were similar to Just, where Just, of course, was far superior in trick shots, but Link had some really good players. Once again, though, they ended, and I wish they would have, you know, made a comeback, or if they just would have never ended, I think that they could have been really special. I've got to put them, though, at the back of Theyite, just because they ended, they haven't come back, so on and so forth. Okay, now we got Myth. This is an interesting one. Myth, from what I remember of Myth, they did a lot more sniping than trick shotting. Now, I know they did some trick shotting, but I would say that they definitely, it felt like, at least for a period of time, from what I remember, and guys, if I'm off on this, definitely correct me in the comment section below, but I just remember them having featuring a lot of snipers consistently. I'm going to put them as trash. Not that they're like a completely trash organization, but they just didn't really prioritize trick shotting, you know, over sniping from what I recall. Now this team, okay, this is interesting. Was this Naive? There was Native and Naive. I don't really remember a lot. I feel like I definitely came across some guys in both of these teams. Definitely Native. I remember I saw some videos from this team, this logo. I remember seeing some stuff, but I don't think that I can put them really because I don't remember, guys. I don't really even, and if I don't remember it, it's kind of one of those things. How am I going to put you in Nate or mid or Bill Cammers if I don't really remember you? It was a little bit forgettable. And you can mention that Soar definitely forgot about Animal. They were, and that's something that we've got to be better about. We need to make sure that Animal is not forgotten about. So I'm going to put these guys as trash. Okay, so we get native now. And I gotta say, with native, they definitely had some pretty cool players within that team. They definitely had some, um, some good content. Once again, though, it just feels like this is another team where it was just, restarts and stuff like this. It just kind of feels like the same song, different dance. I'm gonna put them here at mid, at the very back of mid. And then we have Nexus. So I think this was Nexus Biome, I believe was their name. Um, these guys, they were pretty solid. This was a solid team, without question. I got to put them over Auto Man. I really do. I thought that they were really solid. And once again, guys, a lot of these teams, I don't know if they've made comebacks. Some of them I'm sure have, but Nexus was definitely an IT team, no doubt. Then we get Obey Supremacy, which was actually around before Obey Alliance, but man, dude, I just never thought that their content was good at all. Now, I am going to put them at the very top of trash, but I mean, you could say, all right, they're like in between trash and mid, but I'm going to put them in trash. Obey Alliance, once again, guys, I've got to put these guys up here behind Dare. Dare, I think, had created so much incredible content. Obey, there was a lot of controversy around that team because the Agony twins got caught cheating. And so they got kicked from FaZe. They start Obey. And to their credit, they really brought Obey into a great place. And now they've got, obviously the content they're creating now. I mean, it's fine. I don't think it's anything, terrible. But I don't think that they're of the same level of like Genesis or what, Just was or what, Dare was. I would put them back there. And, you could even argue Obey and Era. Actually, nah, you really can't argue Obey and Era. But Obey was definitely above Era, but just not as good as Dare. Okay, so now we get into some more interesting ones. OGK. Where do we put OGK? What do you guys think? Do you think OGK is better than GWK? Do you think that they were better than Jade? That's a really interesting one. I can't put them ahead of Jade. And maybe I'm not remembering correctly OGK, but I'm going to put them ahead of GWK, but behind Jade. Now we get Pez. Pez HQ. My brother was in Pez. I mean, who wasn't in Pez? Everybody was in that team, it felt like. I mean, look, they created lots of mid to low tier content. I would say, guys, they were trash. I mean, let's just be real. They were trash. Now, let's think about this. I would say that I would actually probably put Astral here ahead of Obey. Myth I would put ahead. I would probably do it something like this. Actually, no. I think that's kind of where I'm thinking with trash. So you have Astral would be more like kind of more so on the verge of the trash to the mid tier. But once again, Astral was pretty forgettable. I thought that Pez was not a good team whatsoever. Now we get to Psycho. I was in Psycho, guys, and they've been consistent when it comes to creating content. They had a lot of people, especially in the beginning of Psycho, that went on to Soar, went on to some, big teams. And I think they're boasting over 200, 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, and they're still creating content to this day. I've got to put Psycho. Oh, it's wild to think about. I was in Psycho. I was like one of the leaders of that team before I left Psycho. Well, I was originally in Major Militia, which once again, Major Militia is not on this tier list. It should be on this tier list for sure. But I was in Major with SB Sway, and then I left to join Psycho as a leader. And then I was in Psycho for a period of time and left Psycho, came back to Major, which I should have never left in the first place. But my time in Psycho, I thought that Psycho Colby was really cool. I thought like a lot of their players were awesome. And I brought a bunch of people from Major into Psycho. And anyways, yeah, those were some good times for sure. I got to put Psycho ahead of Nexus. I just do. I got to put Psycho there. I think that looks good. Red Reserve. So, I know when I watched the SOAR tier list, talked a lot of trash about Red, but I thought that the editing quality, I thought the quality of the clips and stuff were really good. Now, I think Mac has a lot of beef with what happened with Red trying to like steal people from SOAR, so he feels a certain way about it. But Red Reserve had the makings of something awesome. Now, what ended up happening with Red was a travesty. And, I know Formula ended up leaving, Scarce ended up leaving, Mac went back to SOAR. It was definitely it was an unmitigated disaster. What Red Reserve should have been and what it was, it's definitely unfortunate. But I got to put Red, I just, look, when I look at this, I'm like, okay, Red Reserve, even though it didn't last forever, I still have to put these guys as when they were a team creating content and all of those things, they were it. Like, I thought the editing quality was great. I thought the clips were good. I didn't think they had great players in the team. They had great leaders, that being like Max and Scarce and Formula, before Formula ended up leaving and starting 1%, I think. Or he maybe went back to Obey. I can't remember what Formula did, but Scarce kind of just continued his grind of creating his content. I'm going to put them up here behind Psycho. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to get into, so this is, this is interesting, guys. So we got Ruse City now. Now, Ruse, this is interesting because when they first started, there were a lot of players in there that were killing it. I loved their logo. I think it was Ruse City was when they, the team that started. And I thought, man, dude, these guys are cool. I thought that they were kind of like Genesis before Genesis. I'm pretty sure Ruse came out before Genesis, right? And so it kind of felt similar to that. Like they were really creating awesome content. They were rising in a major way. And then ended, or whatever happened, they got hacked, something happened, and then multiple fanboys and stuff restarted the team and stuff. I gotta put them though at the top of mid. When they were creating content, I thought that they were doing some cool shit for sure. Now we get to SAW. SAW is one of my favorite teams, guys. I was a member of SAW. I was a content creator in SAW with Andy and Kegsy. Obviously Bagos was like not active at all. He was focusing on school and stuff. And, so being a part of SAW was awesome. That was some of the best times I had within the community was when I was in SAW. I am putting these guys for sure. And a lot of you might think I'm crazy, but I thought that the traps, SAW traps, dude, it was so good. I thought they crushed it. I just remember them when you looked at a lot of these teams, you would have like, High Global, L7, SAW. They were kind of all up there in that top echelon, getting closer to, the creme of the creme. And that leads me to Spacebound, because Spacebound was a team I wanted to join. I was trying to join Spacebound from Major, and some of the guys in SB did not like me. I know Chills and Burn. They did not really like me. I don't even think Wills liked me too much. I think Wills liked me more than those guys did, but Sway and I were really close. I was talking to Sway when I was in Major more than Chills and Burn or Wills were talking to Sway. I was talking to Sway every single day. We were talking about, kind of creating content. We were strategizing through Skype calls. It was incredible. I never got to SB because by the time I was in Saw and everything else, SB was starting to transition. They were transitioning over to being a trend YouTube channel. And they were, they blew up from doing that. They absolutely did. Now, what Soar in the Soar video, or the Soar tier list, they were talking like SB, like I can't believe they never archived all those videos and all that content before they became a trend channel. Sway did put all of SB's content on a separate channel, like all of the blast offs, everything was put on a separate channel. And so I gotta put, guys, I'm just gonna, put this out there. SB to me at its peak, oh, this is tough, dude. Because I looked at SB with the blast offs and everything, and they did the collaboration, the dual cams with Soar. I think it was called Soaring in Space. Really tough. Because would you put Spacebound in front of High? You can't put them ahead of Era. Would you put SB ahead of High or ahead of L7 or ahead of Saw? They've got to be ahead of Saw for sure. I mean, I think so. It's very close. I don't know if I can put them ahead of L7 or High. They were like like I said, those four teams, High, L7, SB, and Saw, they were all like very close in my personal opinion. I looked at those four teams very, very close in terms of, the tier list. I mean, you could really, if you put any of those guys in front of one another, I wouldn't be upset about it. But I think that that's probably where I would put them. Yeah. AE7, dude. AE7 was awesome when they were around. When they were around, man, they were crushing it. Loved this team. Scarce's team. They were like the farm team for everybody. Or I should say they were the farm team for like all the bigger teams. Scarce got, from AE7, I believe Scarce went to SB with Sway. And then he went on to, I believe, Obey, and then to FaZe. That's what Scarce did. Man, these are tricky. Because AE7 was not around long enough, I feel like, for them to make a, as big of an impact as they possibly could have, I'm going to put them at the top of ITE. Ahead of Jade, OGK, GWK. I think AE7, they had a lot of pool when it comes to the members within the team, people from like those top four teams, or even just the Bill Cammers. A lot of them were taking players from AE7 and even the leaders, like I said, Scarce went on to SB, and then from SB, he went to, Obey, then he went to Red Reserve. I think I said FaZe before. I didn't mean Scarce went to FaZe, he went to Red. Okay, this next one is Set sniping. Guys, I never thought that Set was a great team. Yeah, Set, guys, I really can't put Set anywhere that I'm like, they made a huge impact in the community and everything else. Was never a massive fan of their content. But that being said, I'm going to put them right in front of Obey Supremacy. Yep. In trash. And then you got Soar. They're a king of steez without question. Them and FaZe, man, they were like back and forth consistently for a while. I mean, Soar had better members, it felt like, but FaZe kept on recruiting from Soar. So they were like the farm team for FaZe. And to this day, I will argue that Soar had better trickshotters as a collective than FaZe did. FaZe had like Ramos, Z-Jim, Linksy. I mean, like in MW2 days, I thought FaZe had better trickshotters. Black Ops 2, that's when Soar really to me at least, started to really ramp up finding incredible players like, Soar Rug. I believe Rugrat was recruited to Soar after he hit like a Sui or something on Black Ops 2, and then shortly after he went to FaZe. So Soar, guys, is a king of steez. There is no question in my mind about that. Solar. I was a member of Solar for a period of time. It wasn't a really long time. It was actually after I was in Psycho. I was in, obviously, Major, Psycho, back to Major, to Colt, I think, and to Solar, and then back to Major, something like that. Dude, there was everybody in the community, it felt like, were clan hopping. Like at this period of time, there was a lot of clan hopping happening. And yeah, I definitely ruined my reputation in the community after doing that. But Solar, I've always liked, their editing. I thought that their editing team was pretty good. I've always liked watching, some of their content that they created over there. I would definitely put these guys really, I mean, they're up there with Colt. I would say you could probably say Solar. It's a little bit better than Colt, in my opinion. Okay, and then next, we got Supra. Or is it Supra? No, oh no. This is Superior. Super. I'll never forget this because I believe it was Robbie, that was in Super, or he started Super. And I was never a fan of this team. Never a fan of them. I thought like Rob seemed to be so inactive with the team and everything else. Never really a fan of them. And I never thought their content was that great. Man, put you guys above Pez in trash. Supra. I believe this is Supra, right? Supra Gaming. Now, these guys had some really good players. They definitely had some good players for sure. I would say that Supra. Should I put them above Link? I think I do. I think I need to put them above Link. Do I put them above AE and Auto? We'll come back to that. Synergy. I mean, dude, what is there? There's not a lot that you can really say about trickshotting without Synergy. I thought Synergy was insane. I got to put them over Era for sure. Behind Obey, Dare, Just, and Genesis, they were certainly up there. There is no doubt. They were very consistent on the PlayStation. I think they were on PS3, or were they on Xbox? I can't really remember, but they were crushing it, man, for a long time. And they still create content to this day. TGN, the Gecko Nation, I believe is what it's called. These guys were baller. They were awesome for sure. They were absolutely, I think you got to put them as bill cammers. I really do. They just weren't around long enough. Kind of similar to, like they just didn't seem to be around long enough, in my opinion, for them to be considered, higher up than any of these other teams. They just, when they were around, they crushed it and it was awesome. But yeah, definitely cannot put them above any of those other teams. The Gods. The Gods, hey man, I gotta tell you, they seem to have some pretty toxic people as well and trolls within that team, but they did create some really awesome content. I've got to put them, they're definitely up here with Jade, in my opinion, for sure. I think that they were up there kind of with Jade. I would certainly, I mean, if you want to put them ahead of Jade or Jade slightly behind, I would probably put them right there for sure. Thrust. Yeah. Thrust is one of those what could have been, what should have been. Well, that was Mala's team, and I think Keemstar was a part of it as well, somehow or another. And I love their logo. Their intro was really cool too. And really, they weren't around long enough to once again make an impact in my personal opinion. And so I, and Mala, I don't know whatever happened to Mala. I remember Malachik. Remember all of those like cinemas and stuff? Wasn't he running some of those or something? Like he had his hands in all kinds of stuff. I got to put these guys just ahead of Set. I mean, and that might be a little bit disrespectful actually, because Thrust really didn't do anything. I gotta put them back here, man. I mean, they just didn't do anything really like special with what they had. I can't even put them ahead of Super or Superior. Yeah, they're ahead of Pez. TSU. TSU and TGN are two awesome teams. I gotta put TSU though slightly ahead of TGN. I thought Trickshotters United, man. I loved the name. I thought they just the content they were creating, they had a lot of great players within that team. You could put them as 1A or 1B to TGN. Those guys were back and forth for sure. Tune Us Up. Is that what it was? Tune This Up? Tune was cool though, man. I really liked Tune. I wanted to be a part of them actually for, that was, when was that, man? My God, dude. I mean, I would put Tune head of Red behind Psycho. Nah, they gotta be ahead of Psycho. They're right. Wolfpack. This is an interesting one as well because Wolfpack, WP, I think it was like WP Echo. They had like some guys in that team that were sick, man. They had some, I liked their logo once again. I liked their intro. They've had so many comebacks and things of that nature. I would have to put these guys, I would put them in the mid tier for sure. Probably right behind Horizon, maybe ahead of Horizon, somewhere like in there. Yeah. XJMX. These guys did trick shotting, but like with throwing knives. And so I thought it was really cool for a period of time. I think that the SOAR guys put them as in the LOL tier. I don't think that they were a joke. I I thought that they created some really like unique content in the trick shot space. So I've got to put them as a mid-tier team. I don't think, I think that they were certainly a team they were getting tons of views. Now, what happened with them? Because I believe Blaziken came from XJMX, and I think their leader or founder was XJMX Jam. Was that his name or something like that? And Blaziken went on to SB, and then I believe, where did Blaziken go from SB? Was it Soar? Was it Obey? Maybe he followed, did he follow Scarce? And then he went to FaZe. So, I mean, XJMX had some really, really good people for sure. And so I've got to put XJMX, I'm going to put them in the IT. When I think about trickshotting doesn't just have to be with snipers. I mean, you could have it with whatever you want. And so they came up with some really interesting concepts, and I thought that they were crushing it, with throwing knives. I'm like, holy shit, that's really cool. I thought it was really cool at the time. And so you guys I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. I know some people don't even really consider it trickshotting because it's not with the intervention. It's not with sniper rifles, but I thought that they were doing something unique. In the zone, man. Zone was pretty cool, man. They had some really compelling content. Once again, though, they weren't around very long, or at least it felt like that. In the Zone HQ was, I think, the original name, In the Zone HQ. I've got to put Zone right in front of Wolfpack. I think In the Zone HQ, they did create some really good content. Once again, love their logo. I love Call of Duty, Trickshot team logos and clan logos and stuff. They're all super, different, fascinating, all of that. I think Zone, though, there was a time where I think that they were IT, but, I just think that you have to look at like the totality of some of these teams and what they did from the very beginning to where we are now. And they're another team that kind of fell into getting rebooted, restarted like 100 times. And so I can't put them up there. We got Zoo sniping. I think it was called, what was it? Their cams were called like Unleash the Beast or something. Zoo. Once again, I think Zoo was above Wolfpack. I mean, WP was good. Put him right behind Wolfpack. Yeah. I thought that Zoo was like, they created some pretty cool cams, some cool episodes and stuff. I don't believe they had as many, guys who really went on to, much bigger teams and stuff like that. I think there were some, but Wolfpack definitely, I think, made a bigger impact for sure. And you could maybe even argue that Wolfpack had a bigger impact than Zone did, but I don't know. I liked Zone more than Wolfpack. Optic Gaming. I love Optic, guys, but I mean, when it comes to trick shotting and stuff, they are with Darth Empire. Trash. They're trash at trick shotting, dude. I mean, maybe they could trick shot, but no. They are for sure trash. At Trickshotting, I love all the guys at Optic. I think the dudes at Optic are awesome. They crush it every day, create amazing content, and they have really helped elevate the scene as a whole, esports and gaming, Call of Duty, whatever you want to call it. Optic is at the forefront of that for sure. And then we get to DZ. I was in DZ for a while, and let's see, who was I in there with? The team was not being run by Ollie, who I never liked Ollie. And by the way, like, he changed his name from Ollie to Viral. I was not a fan at all of Ollie at all. Ollie didn't do anything for DZ. He wasn't doing anything for the team. And so I just didn't like him personally. But the team, I loved the team. Loved the logo, loved DZ cams. I just thought that, they had done so many great things from the beginning. And then even like, into the future, man, they were crushing it. I've got to put DZ into the Bill Cammers. Now, the question is do you put DZ ahead of TGN and TSU? And even maybe in front of SAW and SB? Because DZ was special, man. They were a super special team. I think I got to, man. I got to put them ahead. I'm going to put them ahead of High. I just think DZ, what was unfortunate with this team, they made multiple channels. Like they had DZ Uprising or something, DZ Resurgence, DZ Originals. Like they had all these different channels. And so because just what they did from the very beginning, and then, even to now, like, yes, the team's fallen off, so on and so forth, but I thought that they were phenomenal when I would watch all their videos. And I think Viral or Ollie, he started the DZ Cinema. Do you guys remember that Malachik DZ Cinema? He started all these cinemas where he would like get clips. People would send him clips of different trick shots, and then he would upload constantly on the DZ Cinema. And then there was Malachik that was uploading all kinds of clips on there. And they were like getting people to pay them money to upload team tages, cams, all these different things. And they were making tons of money. They were uploading so much on those channels. It was wild. I do think that Ollie, not a fan of him at all. But DZ as a gaming team, dude, at the peaks of their powers, they were one of the best. And then we get ANML, the team that SOAR forgot about. And by the way, they forgot about not just ANML, they forgot about Major Militia, they forgot about Urban Chapters, they forgot about the Bolt Snipers. And what I'll say about those teams, guys, is I would put Major Militia and Urban Chapters, because those two teams, they were kind of rivaling each other. See, Urban Chapters, guys, at the time, They were run by Wills and Shills from SB. So they were a farm team for SB. Sway decided, I'm going to start my own farm team. So he started Major. So Major Militia was formed. I was in auto at the time. He came to me, recruited me into Major Militia as a co-leader. And I was in Major with a couple other guys who ended up leaving the team. And then I became the overall leader as well as the owner of Major Militia. And Wills was in Urban, and then he got recruited as like, I think, a team captain in Spacebound. Later on, I think he became a co-leader. But we had like this rivalry between Urban and Major, where Major Militia, we would go after Urban members, and then Urban Legends would come after Major Militia members. And it was like this back and forth constantly. It was some really fun times, but there definitely a rivalry there between Sway and Chills. And then it became a rivalry, you know, between the two teams and everything else. It was great. I would say Major and Urban, because we were creating a lot of content on there. I would say, by the way, Major Militia, the channel actually got stolen from me, from a guy, and we're not going to get into that whole story, but whatever. Major Militia, we were creating, I thought, some of the best trickshotting content around Advanced Warfare. When Advanced Warfare came out, we even were doing back-to-back majority rules, which was the cams for Major Militia. And so we did a back-to-back, the first back-to-back cams that I had seen in a very long time, but we uploaded them. I think it was like a Saturday and then the next one on a Sunday. And they like, I just thought, you know, we were absolutely crushing it during Advanced Warfare's time. And Urban Chapters, they were creating some really good content too. I would have to put both of those teams, guys, because both teams didn't last very long. Once again, lasted, you know, a couple of years. I would put them as mid-tier teams. I thought that we were creating content that was like for sure, but we just didn't last long enough for us to, you know, really get to those next tiers. And Bolt Snipers, I thought Bolt was awesome. A lot of people wanted to get into Bolt. I thought that they created some really cool content. I would put them in the I thought that they were for a period of time. Now it's been a absolute devastation what's happened to that team. It's been really unfortunate to see what happened to the team, getting multiple restarts. So many people were trying to restart the team, and it was just never the same. But lastly, we get to the team that Soar forgot. Oh, by the way, Arrow Indicator. I would put Arrow Indicator, I'd put them as trash. Yeah, because I brought them up earlier. And in terms of like Supra and AE, I'm actually going to put Supra ahead of AE. I mean, you could really go either way with that, I think. And then we got WereANML. Animal guys, we had a lot of really great cams. That was the Untamed series. I thought they were crushing it. I thought we had some great personalities in Animal, that being like Animal Big. I thought he was awesome. I thought Denver was really cool. He was trying to make Animal more of like a business from the perspective of, do you guys remember the sub boxes? He would always have other teams and stuff in the sub boxes and stuff. He would sell sub box spots, shout outs, stuff like that. And that was a really big thing, even with SB for sure. Animal though, I thought was a great team. I think they crushed it, had a lot of really awesome personalities, guys who went on to other teams. I would put Animal as, hey man, we were right. Man, fuck that. Yo, we were the kings of steez, baby. Let's go.